Hello and welcome to an episode of Tax Able. Today we're joined with Dan Hyman, the founder of Eat Look Feel, and Eat Look Feel is a wellness brand. So Dan, can you tell us a little bit more about your company?
Yeah, of course. So Eat Look Feel is essentially the ethos is to create better for anyone that comes into sort of contact with us, and that's through sort of inspiring and educating through their nutrition, their training, and their mindset. Essentially, with the belief that if you get those three drivers right, the other areas of your life start to sort of improve, and you set yourself up pretty well in life. Our main core product at the moment is our online coaching service. And essentially what we do is delve into a client's current sort of health regime, if you like, in terms of their current eating habits, the way they currently move, where their headspace is at, deliver a framework for them all via an app that essentially aligns things towards better.
Yeah. So you're looking at a whole rounded service rather than just providing a fitness plan or a nutrition plan for someone to follow.
Exactly that, yeah. So that's obviously, they're deliverables that are part of it, but it's more looking at health as a whole, and in like a holistic way that sort of, it's different to everybody. And you kind of have the 6 facets of, your obviously physical health, your mental health, your financial health, your social health, your career health, your educational health. You kind of taking everything into account and making sure that from our point of view, those deliverables in terms of your nutrition, your training, and your headspace are all moving in the right direction for you and all aligned to where you personally want to take things and what your sort of personal goals are.
Sounds really good, because I know that you need a tailored plan because one size doesn't fit all. So it's nice that you take the time to tailor your plans for your clients' different living situations or eating habits or dietary requirements. So
very much so, yeah. And every client's sort of life design, if you like, looks very different. So therefore, blanket advice in the health industry and in the fitness industry is very, very difficult because everyone has this different, everyone's priorities are different, everyone's goals are different, everyone's life looks different. So to therefore work on a framework that really works for them and takes those things into account is where I think that the real value in the product lies.
What do you do for the mental side of things? So you get to know your clients, you suggest like coping mechanisms, or how do you tap into the mental side of assisting them with their journey?
So again, it's very, very difficult to give blanket advice because it looks completely different for everybody. One sort of what we do is obviously from like a deliverables point of view is that we provide obviously a nutritional framework, a training program, but that's kind of been done. But we also have the coaching side of things, the one-to-one communication. And that delves into things such as accountability, motivation, even just someone to talk to, and I guess from a mental point of view, the sort of the biggest thing we can do initially is get things right.
Yeah.
So people like to feel good, and I don't believe that there's any one out there that when you do start getting your nutrition and training working for you in a realistic and a sustainable way, you're not going to see the benefits into your life. Every other facet of your life will start to improve sort of if you can get your nutrition and training right. And I'm not talking it has to be absolutely optimal, but it also doesn't have to be disregarded, right? Like there's a sweet spot for everybody. And obviously if we can start getting those initial frameworks correct, then the headspace starts looking after itself. But also it's from just the coaching point of view. And that comes down to sort of me as a coach towards clients. That comes down to my skill set, my communication with clients, being there when they need sort of understanding. And it's a little bit skin in the game because I've been in the game and I've sort of had to keep myself pretty fit because of my modeling background for a long time. So I kind of understand that motivation is going to come, it's going to go, it's going to be, sometimes they're going to be flying and sometimes they're going to love it. And there's other times where they're going to absolutely,
you need to get them up off the couch and get moving again.
And at the end of the day, you're just a coach. Like you can't, I often say to clients, and you're like this, is that if I could eat and train for you, I probably would.
I mean, I'd love it if you could, that'd be great.
If I could, I would, but I can't. So it's, what I can do though, is make things as easy as possible for you. But there has to be that element of, you've also got to bring motivation to the table. And, to be honest, if a client gets to the stage where they're reaching out to us, and they're looking for that sort of framework and looking for that help to sort of get better, there's usually motivation there.
Yeah, they just need that extra push to know that you care,
Exactly.
know someone's like there with them along the journey.
Because if they didn't care, they probably wouldn't have reached out to us in the first place. So there is that motivation there. So then it's about providing a sort of realistic and sustainable way for them to approach things. And then it's also about, like almost unleashing that motivation and getting everything moving in the right direction. And that's another thing, is that it's a lot of it's about getting the alignment right of things, because nothing is more motivating than when things are going well.
Yeah.
Because obviously, like you say, a lot of people sort of approach nutrition and training without help and without, say, like education behind it. So you might say, like, you might start an sort of unsustainable diet, for instance.
Yeah, 2-week kind of binge diet.
Exactly.
That then you end up losing weight for, say, 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And I always get to a point where I'm like, yes, okay, this is good. And then I burn out because I'm exercising every day. I'm not eating enough calories. I know I'm doing it at the time, but then I get the results really quickly. But then you end up just being in a cycle of doing it every 3 weeks, every couple of months.
Precisely. And obviously, like I was saying, it was with the alignment side of things. If you're working really, really hard and you're putting all that motivation in, but you're kind of going in the wrong direction, it's going to end badly.
Yeah, you get disheartened at the end of it.
Exactly, because you're just going to get to say, I feel flat, I feel tired. I'm like, and then, like I said, you're working so hard and you're putting all this motivation in. You're thinking, I'm really focusing on things, but it's not going. If it's not aligned to where you want to go, it's like anything, right? Like, it's like if you run in the wrong direction, you're not going to end up where you want to be. Yeah.
Talking about running.
Yeah.
Awful. I don't know how anyone runs.
Luckily, you don't need to.
It is not for me. I'm a spinning person. So somewhere that I don't need to go outside. I don't need to worry about falling off a treadmill. You have to be completely tailored. If I had to sign up to a running program, I would be, my knees can't take it.
And that's where, again, going back to like our and why almost blanket advice is, I can't give the same program to every single client, because, like you say, there's people that don't enjoy running. If I gave you a running program,
I would last maybe 3 days max.
I don't like this. And so much of it's enjoyment, because if there's no enjoyment with what you do, there's an end point. Like I said, going back to building a lifestyle, it has to be ingrained in that lifestyle, and therefore it has to be something you enjoy.
Yeah, some people think that you have to just go to the gym and then go for a run or something. But there's so many other sports out there that you can burn calories with and make it a lot easier. You don't have to be in the gym for 2 hours every day.
I don't believe for a second that there's not a way that every single person can move in a way they enjoy. Yeah. And it's the same with eating patterns. Like, everyone, I don't want to go on a diet. Like, you don't have to be on a diet. Like, there are foods you enjoy. So, and we can work on making them work for you. Obviously, there's an element of, you can't sit there and go, but I like eating 4 donuts a day. Yeah, it doesn't work. And I would also actually question whether that does make you feel good in the long term. No, definitely feels good when you're eating it, but afterwards you feel awful. Precisely. So it's the same with that. It's actually working on, right, how do we make this enjoyable? And I genuinely believe there's a way of incorporating that into every single person's lifestyle that they can genuinely benefit from. It's like, I think when I was at university, we did this silly diet. I think all of the girls did it in like first or second year of uni. It was called like the lemon. Oh, it was like the maple syrup and lemon diet that we did, where you didn't eat anything for basically a week. You just drank this horrible, sweet, lemony, like, I think it was almost like a fancy maple syrup. It had lemon in it and then some spicy pepper. And we drank that for a week solid. Right. And that was supposed to help you lose weight, but all it did was we were going out, we were drinking, we weren't eating anything, and then we would just like binge on McDonald's and KFC the next week. Yeah, exactly. So then you sit there and say, I don't understand why. Stomach looked the best it ever had though for that first week, but I bet you felt horrible. Yeah, so tired. Yeah, and probably just and then didn't hold your alcohol as well either on the night out. Plus as well, I mean, if we want to dig deep, we won't dig too deep into that, but I mean, how sustainable is that really? Oh, it's not at all. I don't know why we thought it was a good idea. How you incorporate a social life into, like, imagine going out for dinner and saying, I'm not eating tonight, but can I have a water with lemon and some spices in it? That'd be brilliant. That's what I struggle with as well. So say if you're on a strict diet, how do you... I always think that you can't go out and eat, but you can. You just have to make smarter choices. Exactly, yeah. And that's just something that we, again, something that we talk about a lot with clients, is that it's actually building those into a lifestyle. Because what you don't want to do, and that's where we get away from the terminology of like creating a diet, because it kind of has negative connotations around it anyway.
Yeah, because you think it's temporary and it feels a bit depressing, like, oh no, I can't have that, I'm on a diet.
Exactly, yeah. It's got so many negative connotations to it, but it's that building a lifestyle where, you know, you can go out and eat with your friends, you can go and socialize, you can drink alcohol, but it's all about building that balance through your lifestyle, and it's working with whether you employ like a damage limitation, so you like you say, you make healthy decisions when you're out and about, or like an even simpler framework is like controlling the controllables is one thing that we use. So it's like when you're in control and you're in your house and you're cooking and you're in full control of things, like that's where, right, let's get really focused and really aligned and let's make meals really work for us. And then when you're out and about, it just buys you that little bit sort of,
you can stack
you
up
a little bit more leeway. Exactly. And
keep some calories for later in the week. You know, you've got you want to go and have the steak, you want to go and have like the buttered vegetables.
Exactly.
Those extra bits and pieces.
You know, at the end of the day, it's food, and everybody should enjoy that. And you know, it's like the social side of your health is such a big facet to tick, and it's getting away from that. Health is either just completely what you look like and your mental health, to actually, you know, it's your financial health, it's your educational health, it's your career health, it's your social health. Like there's 6 facets to this, and they're all as important to each other. And
they're all intertwined as well,
completely,
aren't they?
And everyone's kind of like balance of those facets is slightly different. So for instance, you know, like say like a fitness model is going to be slightly heavier on the physical side of things, right? Because it's kind of
their
linked
brand
to their income.
And everything.
Precisely. Whereas someone who, I don't know, has a potential, say like works in the city, a lot of client facing sort of meetings, like from a social point of view, they're going to be more social. So for them to then have the same, you know, like they're going to have those different, everything's going to be slightly different balance.
Yeah, you've got to tweak it.
Exactly. And that's again going back to why health and sort of like wellness, if you like, looks different to every single person.
It's good as well. I think in the industry and in society at the moment, we can talk more about the mental side of it and how it affects how you feel and how you move and what you eat. I think we're more open as a society to talking about that, saying like, oh, I want to change like my lifestyle because it's affecting me mentally, and you know, maybe I want to look into doing something different to just go into the gym. So I think it's opened up avenues for people like you and Eat Look Feel to kind of tap into that and work with people on a more personal one-to-one basis.
Very much so. You're absolutely spot on. Like there's obviously there's so much that has, I guess, kind of like personal image and physical health is kind of in the spotlight a lot with social media and that kind of comparison culture that we have now with obviously social media, etc. Which obviously has its negatives, but also has its positives. And like you say, the positive side of it is that we're now more accessible to speak to clients and to speak to people and work on these like frameworks for people. And there's so many different avenues to move now. And from a nutritional point of view as well, there's lots of good options around to sort of eat well. You
can cater for the vegans or vegetarians, whereas before there was, if you were vegan, you only had maybe tofu to choose from. And
precisely.
I mean, I tried being vegan. It didn't last very long.
We spoke earlier even just about dairy alternatives, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know,
I know we've got like 12 different versions of milks now. It's crazy.
Completely. And nowadays, if you go into like a coffee shop and you get normal milk, they look at you like you're funny. Yeah. Whereas you go, you know, 5 years ago, I remember sort of going abroad.
They only had soy.
You'd ask for sort of almond milk, and they'd think, you know, they'd be like, you're mad.
Yeah.
How'd you milk an almond?
Yeah. Now I saw one the other day. I think it was brown rice milk. I was like, how do you get milk out of some of these options?
And also from a mindset point of view and like a mental health point of view, it's I feel people are much more open about talking about things these days.
Yeah, definitely.
And that is, again, it's working out and finding those drivers towards looking at health as a sort of more of a whole in terms of getting away from this idea that your health is just what you look like.
Yeah.
Like your mental health is obviously, they're so interlinked. And again, going back to those 6 facets of, you know, your career, your social health, your financial health, your physical health, your mental health, they all intertwine to create like a paradigm of health and wellness. And that's kind of where every client is slightly different.
Yeah. It's good though, because it means you're looking at the person as a whole and you actually care.
Yeah, precisely. And that will always be the way. Like, you know, that's always that has to be the sort of main driver, if you like.
Yeah, because otherwise people can just go to the gym, get a standard plan off the internet and go in. But you'll get some results, but
it's quick buck.
Yeah,
it's quick buck. And like for me and us, the goal is to create a brand.
Yeah,
and the long term sort of health of this brand, it comes from care. And I think, to be honest, I think like this industry is built around, you have to care. If you don't care, you get found out pretty quickly, I think.
Yeah, I think everyone underestimates that trainers are actually more like therapists.
And
you spend a lot of your time offloading on you while you're working out. I mean, I've had a few personal trainers over the years, and I spent half the time while I'm doing like sit-ups or another exercise talking about what's happened in my social life, what's happened in my personal life, like what's happened that day that's upset me. And they just, you spend most of your time talking than actually working out.
Completely. And it's so much of it's like it's difficult because obviously you have to stay in your lane, and I'm not a therapist, and I don't want to sell myself as a therapist. And
you have to be careful not to give too much advice. Completely. Just listen.
But all of my clients that I work with know full well that I'm not. I never would just sell a product saying I'm a therapist. I did my mental health first aid qualification just because
which is good, yeah.
Yeah, because I wanted to just tick that box off, because I'd done my nutrition diploma, I'd done my personal training qualification, and I wanted to tick that box of mindset, because we have those 3 pillars.
Yeah,
and the mental
and just
health
to be aware about like what to say, what not to say, what to trigger.
Honestly, it was. I learnt more doing that one than the other 2. 100%,
oh really?
100%. And it's the sort of, like you say, often half the time. Like for me now, the nutrition and training side of things, easy.
Yeah.
I don't believe, like I've done it for such a long time.
Been in the game for a long time.
Well, I've got skin in the game. 1, myself. 2, just working with such an array of different clients. I understand nutrition and training. I genuinely believe I could work with anybody and give them a framework, and within a few weeks we could really get something working for them and get them into a better place physically and mentally. But from the mental side of things, when you speak to people like daily, weekly, however often it is that you speak to sort of clients, it's it changes daily. It changes so often, and like you say, sometimes it probably does border on the therapy side of things. But I think a lot of sort of like the health and the motivation side of things is even just having someone there, just having someone to talk to, having someone's in your corner. The accountability side of it, like sometimes it's just good to have, like you said, almost that belief that things are working for you as well.
And things are moving forward.
Exactly.
That's why you should always you need a trainer checking in with you, or you need a friend in the gym, because if I know that someone's waiting for me at the gym or waiting for me, then I will get up and go. If no one's there, no one knows, I just snooze my alarm and I do not bother.
Precisely. And I think that it almost goes back to, again, working hard in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
Like if you're not seeing the results that you want to see, or you don't have the belief that you're kind of, you're going to do a spin class here and then going for a little, or you wouldn't be going for a run, but
a walk, a brief walk.
Going for a brief walk one day, doing some resistance work one day. It's like it very much ends up in,
you just plateau and nothing really happens.
Am I going anywhere? Is my nutrition really working for me? Is it not? I don't really know. I feel like I'm working really hard, but
you get frustrated.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what happens with frustration, right? Like
pizza, loads of pizza.
The end of the line, exactly. Like you're just not going to continue it.
I did buy an air fryer the other day though. It's changed my life.
How good are they?
It's amazing. It looks really ugly on the kitchen side because they're huge, but it's changed my life.
I actually, so I've got an air fryer as well. I absolutely love it.
I mean, obviously there's loads of air fryer brands.
Yeah.
But I've been watching it for ages on people's stories, and I was like, oh, it's just an air fryer, whatever. I've got an oven.
Yeah.
Cooked my first meal in it and all the veg. I was like, this is delicious.
How good is it? So easy to clean, tastes nice, keeps everything fresh.
Takes hardly any time.
I did exactly the same. I bought my family one actually. I was like, these things are unbelievable. Bought my family one, everything now, they love it.
Yeah.
I actually saw a funny meme the other day that was, it was like one minute you're young and fun, the next minute you're talking about air fryers. I was like, I've never been so
all of my friends and family being like, you need to get an air fryer. I feel like an air fryer pusher.
Honestly, maybe we should bring out an Eat Look Feel air fryer.
Yeah, you should. Oh, they are they're just great.
Yeah.
So now I feel so much like healthier and more motivated. Now I'm not using like loads of different oils. Like 1 tablespoon of oil, that's changed my life. It sounds so interesting. But
then it's those little routines and those habits that make that build your lifestyle for the long term.
Yeah.
Because it sounds redundant when you sit there and say, oh yeah, well, 1 tablespoon of oil instead of like a massive glug. But
Yeah.
if you think like going into like compound interest of that, right? You do that every single day.
Yeah. And I'm heavy-handed on the oil.
Well, this is it. So say you're using 3 tablespoons instead of 1 tablespoon now. Like, you do that every day for a year. It's a whole lot of calories, and a whole lot of oil.
It just adds up so quickly.
Exactly.
I'm typical of just like pouring it all over the veg, and it tastes so much better. But they're like now with the air fryer, game changer.
And how easy is it?
It's so easy.
Doesn't
I would like it if I could just put it away some days, because it's really taken up a lot of space on the side. But it looks
like spaceship.
Yeah, it does. Doesn't it? It tastes really good though.
Good.
So how did you come up with the idea for Eat, Look, Feel? Like, how did you take me from when you graduated uni to starting up your own business?
So basically, I'll start from the beginning. So I graduated, I studied marketing at uni.
Yeah.
Graduated, started working in London full time. Did that for a year. And then I actually got scouted to model, believe it or not.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I got, and kind of like fell into the whole modelling industry. Was literally walking home one day out of Oxford Circus. They stopped me.
Prime spot.
Exactly. Yeah. Stopped me. I basically, because I was tall, just kind of thought, oh, they stop everybody there.
Yeah.
Didn't really think much of it. Then basically ended up going to, long story short, 6 months later, thought, might be able to earn a bit of extra money out of this. Why not? Got stopped again. So I thought, oh, there might be something in this. And basically, yes, I started modelling part-time, sort of said like, my sort of
kept
career
your job
is my
still.
main, so my career is my main focus. Said to my agent at the time, I'm sure she was,
she's
she
like,
even says now, like,
yeah,
all right, Dan, yeah, good one, we'll have you in 6 months.
She's like, yeah, of course, whatever you need, we fully support you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. She knew what was happening all along.
Yeah.
And then basically I had like a really good start into the modelling sort of industry. Like my first job was like a Calvin Klein exclusive catwalk show in Milan. And then from there...
Casual.
Yeah, as you do. And then it was all a bit mad. And then as sort of from there...
You had a good agent.
She's incredible. And she basically said to me, this is your chance. Like if you're ever going to do this, this is it.
Yeah, especially when you go in such a good level as well. You know that you're going to get the good shows and it's going to be more interesting for you rather than slogging it every day, going to loads of castings. And I think if you've gone to university, you've got a job, you don't want to be going from the bottom level. I would lose motivation. I
think, and to be honest, like
you got a taste of the good life.
This is funny as well. I mean, you kind of knew me at uni, and it was kind of like it was never a thing in my life. Like
no.
It was, and people think that I'm making that up, but it was like no one had.
You never were posing for photos.
No one had ever said to me, "You should model. You should do this." I mean, I had a pretty terrible haircut, but. Which was helping me out, but no one had even said to me like you should. So I kind of feel like I fell into the industry rather than like went looking for it.
No.
And then it kind of, so then everything kind of like sort of happened quite quickly in the modelling industry from there. And then it was actually my friends and family around me at the time. I didn't want to give up my job. I was like, "What are you talking about? I've just moved to London. I'm living with my mates. I know what my income is every month."
Yeah.
Like
using your degree for something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Why would I leave my job for something that I'm, going self-employed? I might, I don't know. Next month I might not earn a penny. Like I don't want to do this. It sounds awful. Yeah. And everyone was like, "No, stop being stupid. This is your chance. Like, it's an opportunity that doesn't
you get
come
to travel the world.
Often.
You get paid for it. I mean, you get to mingle with loads of other models.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm sure the boys were super excited for you.
Exactly. And like my family, my parents are incredible, and they were like, "We'll support you with whatever you need."
Take the pressure off a little bit.
Exactly. Like you're gonna, and your career, like the marketing side of things will always be there. So anyway, took the plunge. Been doing it ever since. Still doing it to this day.
Oh, you still do it?
Still doing it to this day.
I remember seeing like photos every now and then. I'd be like, Dan's on a catwalk, and I was like, what has happened since uni?
Honestly, madness. So I still can't really believe it, but you just go with the flow.
Do you still do like fashion weeks, or is it more like I don't know how you categorize modelling. So you've got like high-end fashion, and then you've got like not catalogue. We don't have catalogues anymore.
Yeah, a lot of it's changed. Like just with the sign of the times and the industry's changed and that sort of thing. Like it's very, very different from when I started. But I still model, and that's kind of like the constant balance between the Eat, Look, Feel side of things and the modelling.
Yeah, because it gets you out, especially in like a different area and industry, and talking to people.
Exactly, and when you're starting a business, it's nice to have, and I'm sure we'll probably delve into this a little bit later, but it's nice to have, like, I feel very lucky that I have the opportunity to start a business with an income.
Yeah.
And with the flexibility of the modelling industry. It's very, very different if I was in full-time sort of employment, trying to start a business as a sort of...
Weekends and evenings would drain you.
Well, exactly. Yeah. And, it still is that, but I kind of have the flexibility with the modelling because I'm self-employed. If I need to take next week off, I can.
So you're self-employed as well as having the company?
Yes. So the company was born on March 29th, 21. Yeah. So it's nearly a year old. Like the actual public limited company.
Actually launched it in a pandemic.
Believe it or not.
Was pandemic last year?
I think it was a lockdown. Yeah, it was because it was.
Oh, we just had the winter one, the horrible winter one.
Yes, exactly. So we were coming out of it. Yeah. And that was when we launched as a kind of proper public limited company.
Were you doing stuff before?
Yeah. So going back to so I was modelling, and to be honest, it kind of got to, I think, to be fair, like the kind of Eat, Look, Feel idea came from probably a lot from the way that I had to live my lifestyle. Because I think me and my agent were talking, like last month actually, and it was like I've shot underwear at least once a month for the last 6 years.
Oh, really?
And it's obviously with that there has to be a sort of element of consistency. Like I can't balloon in weight. I can't sort of,
it's a lot more pressure than anyone realises, I think, because you can't have an off month. You can't over Christmas, like if you want to eat a few more sausage and blankets and
that's to be fair, like you it's not like I'm working at the absolute top end and you have to be like, but there is an element of you have to be consistent with your lifestyle. You can't
turn up and have a little tum over Christmas or you've been on the beers too much.
Well, and this from like going back to like an accountability point of view, you quickly learn, right? Someone's there with a camera and there's a massive screen up there.
Yeah. And you can see everything.
So you kind of have that pride, and you kind of think, you know what? Like if you don't look good, you know about it quickly. Like
especially
there's nowhere to hide.
Especially if someone you can see, and you're like, yeah, I know. I had
exactly.
I need to work on this. I think I'd find that really stressful.
Completely, and there obviously, there are obviously stresses that come into it, and I think, to be honest, that's where the Eat, Look, Feel idea kind of came from.
Keep yourself in a good mental
and it's skin in the game, and it's like that. It's almost like I had to build that consistent lifestyle for myself, where it wasn't a diet because it's impossible. Like you can't diet for 6 years, can you?
No.
So it's like I had to build in a way of exercise that I enjoyed, that I could do weekly and daily, that I enjoy and that makes me feel good, and then like ways of eating, that foods and sort of eating patterns, if you like, that keep me in shape and that doesn't have to sort of go from ballooning weight and gaining weight and sometimes being able to shoot underwear and sometimes not. And, you have that element of you have to kind of stay sample size and all of that stuff. So I think that's kind of where the Eat, Look, Feel idea. And then I guess what I learned quite quickly was when things were off, I really didn't like it.
Yeah.
And that was where I was like, hold on, this is so powerful. Getting your nutrition like working for you. Because essentially,
so you can have an off week and you know that you're not going to look too different because your nutrition is right.
Completely. And like, and obviously like that's developed over time a lot, but I think that's where the idea came from. And it was kind of like too many people are getting this really wrong. Yeah. Like it's a really easy fix to get your nutrition and training like working for you. And I mean, even the word training like scares people because it's like, oh, I've got a big training. Even just movement, like eat better and move more. Like it's such a sort of it's a no lose game.
Yeah,
there's no downside to it, right? There's no downside of being like I genuinely believe every other sort of aspect of your life improves, and I think that's kind of where the idea. I was kind of like, right, how, that too many people are getting this wrong. There's a gap in the market.
Especially when you master it as well over a few years. You're like, how is this so difficult for everyone? Because you've got it to a point where it's easy for you and it works for you.
100%.
Kind of like the air fryer thing. You're like, I just want to tell everyone about it and how easy it is.
Yeah. And then you almost think like, I can't remember life without it.
Yeah.
And then there's so much more to like health in terms of, obviously not just, for me, it was a lot of like what I look like. Because obviously from the modelling side of things. But just in terms of like my mental space, when I'm in control of things, I feel so much better.
Yeah.
And when I'm eating well, my skin's better. And
because they don't want to put loads of makeup on you.
Things like that is so like, and it, like I say, it's just a no lose game. And I guess from there, it kind of then developed into these like thinking about ideas. And I think the actual idea came when I was living in New York, and I think I was just playing around with ideas, and I can't remember, I was like writing stuff down, and it came up with these like 3 pillars. of health. And I was like, you know what, like if you get your nutrition, your training and your headspace right, you'll be all right. Like, you know, like you kind of do well in life. Like you don't see many people.
Does what it says on the tin.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you don't see many people that kind of get those right, but aren't in a good place in life.
Yeah.
And then that kind of came to like the eat, look, feel side of things. And I was like, you know, if you eat good, then you look good, then you feel good. Like, and that kind of where the brand was born. And yeah, so I guess that's kind of where the idea for sort of eat, look, feel came from. And then it's kind of just like developed over the time to be sort of where we are now and turned into sort of like a wellness brand and an online coaching platform.
Yeah, I remember seeing ages ago. So I knew you were doing some modelling because I saw some pictures on Instagram. And then I saw you launch a book, I think it was.
Yeah.
And then I realised that you were doing more with it and you're converting like the modelling into something else. So what was the book about?
So that's kind of where so this is again delving back to sort of how I kind of like it sort of transitioned into a business. I kind of always felt basically the problem I have with modelling, right, is I love it to pieces. It's opened up so many doors and the travel side of things is incredible. I've met some amazing people, but it's always left me feeling somewhat unfulfilled, if you like, and from like a self-actualization point of view.
Yeah, it's very physical.
Exactly. Yeah. You kind of get booked for what you look like, right? Like, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's the way the world works. I get it. But it's from like a fulfillment and a sort of like pride point of view. I think you go through like, well, you can call it like menopause if you like. You get to like your late sort of 20s as a man. And I don't know, for me, it kind of like, I didn't feel fulfilled by this industry.
Yeah.
I was almost like, you know what?
Just wanted a bit more.
Seeing like, you know, billboards and in magazines, it's cool. It's really cool. And there is an element of pride, but you think, you know what, I'm getting booked for just what I look like.
Yeah.
And it's like, I can give more, I can do more.
You want to get your personality across and like connect with people on a different level.
Who am I helping? Who am I helping? Like, who am I, you know, what sort of influence am I having? Like, I'm just you know, sort of having my photo taken and you're almost getting photographed for looking like you do rather than the influence you're having on people. Yeah. And that was where I was like, hold on a minute. And I want to sort of like switch that. And that was when I sort of wrote the book, the initial sort of, it was called The Modern Healthy Lifestyle. And from that was essentially, it was like basically all of the ideas that I had around like nutrition, training, mindset. And I was like, I could give some blanket advice here to people. Yeah. And put together like this little book, got it all sort of designed. It was probably about 3 years ago now. And released that, and it went like we had a really good response.
Yeah, it looked really good.
Yeah, everyone was like, you know what, like it's really professional.
That's what I thought when I saw it. It's funny when you know people and then you see them do something, you're like, oh, it's really professional.
I appreciate that.
But you know, it would never not be professional. But when you know someone, you forget like the business side of them as well.
Yeah. So we launched that, which was fun. And then, to be honest, I probably procrastinated for too long after that. Because it was that, you know, at this point it was a side hustle.
Yeah, and getting a book together is a lot of work. It's a lot more work than you think it's going to be.
Exactly. And I had like the Eat, Look, Feel sort of like name and all of the legal stuff behind that, but I didn't, and I had the website, etc. But I didn't, you know, it wasn't a public limited company. It wasn't really like, you know, the only money we were making was from the book, say. Yeah. So it wasn't a business.
Just ticking
over
in the background.
Hustle, and it was, you know, it was something that I absolutely loved it. And I think like, you know, I think we sold maybe like 150 of the first
amazing.
book.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's nothing. It's a drop in the ocean. But I was buzzing like that. But when I was like literally selling this book to people that I'd never heard of.
Yeah, when it's not just your friends and family.
Yeah, exactly. First sale was your mum, and you're like, well, I won't count that one.
It's like when I first launched the podcast and I saw like the list. You don't get the listener list, you get the numbers. But then people can subscribe to them on the website. 100%. And when I started seeing email addresses that weren't my dad, my mum, my cousins, or like people from work, I was like, oh, okay, it's actually getting out there. And like as soon as it got like 50 listens on an episode, I was like, oh, 50 people have listened to it. You get so excited.
Precisely, and rightly so. And like I say, that was almost like where it started, and I was like, oh, cool,
gave you like the
this.
Momentum.
Yeah, and then to be honest, I procrastinated for too long. I was always playing around with ideas, and I always kind of had that like, I want to turn this into a business. But I was doing a bit of like face-to-face personal training, and that was when I started then doing all my qualifications, as we spoke about, because I was like, you know, I feel like if I'm going to sort of take this and sort of be taken seriously, I need to have the backing to back it up. Like you can't just kind of, although I think I know everything, it's almost like the Dunning-Kruger effect. The more you know, the less you know, right?
So you launched the book and then you procrastinated for a little bit. So how did that then convert into establishing a formal company?
Yeah, so then that came from, so we then essentially had the book. That all went kind of like quite well. And then I kind of went away and thought, right, how am I going to take this into, from being like a side hustle and an idea into like a business? And then we went and did sort of a bit of face-to-face training, sort of here and there, again around sort of modelling. So it's difficult to get that balance right. Modelling industry is quite last minute, let's say.
Yeah.
So it was difficult to get the balance right with that. And then that was when I was like, right, how can I sort of get this coaching service and really build a brand across from a sort of like a scalable point of view? And that was then led to the online coaching side of things. And we basically launched the online coaching service probably about a year ago now, just over a year ago.
Oh, okay. So after the first sort of major lockdown.
Yeah. So that, to be honest, that probably gave me the kick up the backside that I needed. Because
modelling kind of shut down, didn't it?
Well, it was actually quite strange because production was allowed to continue throughout.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was super weird. It was literally like the NHS and production was allowed to continue. So I actually never stopped shooting throughout the entire.
I guess you don't need to be too close, do you?
Yeah, I don't know. It feels like it was kind of, we just got lucky with the sort of rules.
Yeah.
But basically, yeah. So we did I kind of never stopped shooting, which was very fortunate. But obviously things slowed down massively, and life just slowed down, like weekends, obviously, and evenings.
A lot of time in the house.
Exactly. So that kind of gave me, and I personally felt really out of control, and I couldn't deal with it. I couldn't deal with someone essentially taking this industry away from me overnight. And that was when,
especially when you're self-employed.
Exactly, and that's the thing, right? So I was self-employed. That was my sole income, or my major income, if you like. And then from that, it was, hold on, someone can literally take this away from me overnight, and a global pandemic hits and no one's there to look after you.
Yes, crazy. And then you've got rent to pay, you've got bills to pay.
Exactly, it's difficult. And then and then I was like, right, that probably then gave me like I say, it probably sort of put me into action, if you like. And I started taking Eat, Look, Feel, the ideas I had and everything like that to the next level.
Got more time to think about it. And
exactly.
Sit down and do it.
I had way more time, so I was like, right, how are we going to do this? And it started off. Then I started a weekly newsletter.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I started a weekly newsletter, and it was like, if we call it like the nutrition training mindset mail drop, and it was essentially just like one nutritional idea, one training idea, and one mindset idea.
Yeah.
And it was kind of I started it through lockdown to kind of just like try and bring like positivity through sort of people. And then that kind of like grew quite quickly in terms of like subscribers and stuff.
And people enjoyed that.
Exactly. Yeah. And then I was still sort of like, I was obviously keeping myself fit through the pandemic and that sort of thing. And then, it came to, right, now's the time to launch like what I probably would say the online coaching service.
Yeah.
And that was probably where I'd say it went from a side hustle into like an actual business. Well, from a work point of view for me anyway. So it was like, we started like launched the online coaching service, which we were very, very lucky had quite a sort of big.
Probably the perfect time to do it as well. Everyone was looking for more fitness at home.
Yeah, and we had a really good start. Like there was a lot of people that were quite interested, sort of initially. So, we started off with quite a big client base, which was very fortunate. And then sort of from there, we've just been growing over the last year. Yeah. It's just been
got like your community, which really helps when everyone feels like part of a community. They stay for longer.
Completely.
They can motivate each other as well.
Exactly. And that's such a big part of it. And there's been sort of like lessons over the past year in terms of I've probably tried to do too much too soon at times.
Everyone does, don't they? You want to run before you can walk.
Well, that's it. Exactly. And it's like so much of it comes back to like I work with so I have like a business advisor manager type woman I work with, and she's amazing. She's got so much skin in the game. She knows the industry so well. And when I first started this, like the online coaching service had started really well. And then like probably 8 months ago maybe, I was there like, right, we need to now start doing events, and we need to bring merch out, and I need to start a podcast, and let's get book number 3 out, and do you know what I mean? And then let's do an online seminar next week. And all of a sudden I was probably spreading myself way too thin.
Yeah.
And that was kind of where she
reined you in a little bit.
Yeah, very much so. And she said, listen, Dan, like you've got like, this is our core product. Like, let's really focus on making this an incredible product. And then the rest of the business will grow from there. And we need to let's grow this client base because this is what we're really good at. And then that was where I took a step back and go, yeah, you know what, you're right. Like,
yeah, and then you can add the other bits in, like,
and it will come.
You've started a podcast now, so you've
exactly, yeah. So that's all to come. Yeah. So that's all to come. And yeah, it's like we released book 2, which was just more of like a coffee table book with some mindset ideas in last year, as well. And yeah, it's just, but the sort of the client base is in a really healthy position, and like I'm super proud of that. And that's
maintaining
kind of
it as well. It's not just a fad that people signed up to during the lockdowns.
100%.
You've actually maintained your client base,
client
which is
retention,
major.
Exactly. Client retention is so important to me. And I mean, there is an element of if you do a very, very good job, the client, some clients then have the education and the knowledge to go and like do it themselves, which is obviously, kind of the goal.
Yeah, and it's every industry. Like if I teach my clients about tax and how to do it, then obviously they can go and run with it. But there's only so far people can run with the education in the game.
And then
they're
it's
going to
the
have to come back.
accountability and the motivation side of things. Obviously, like you said, it's having that someone there that, a lot of my clients now could go and like write their own workouts and eat in a way that they've developed their sort of healthier habits. But from obviously, again, a mindset point of view, they like having that check-in.
And just check in, yeah.
Exactly. They like speaking about it. They like having those conversations. And I love it. I mean, like sitting down and talking about like nutrition and training someone. I love it. Like, I'd sit there all day and talk to you. I mean, as you've probably just heard.
No, I like it. It's like you need to be passionate about what you do.
Exactly.
Because we do our jobs for the majority of our time. Well, when you work for yourself, it's 7 days a week. If you're just employed, it's usually just Monday to Friday. You have to be passionate. If I wasn't passionate about tax, I don't know what I'd be miserable, because your whole life is it.
About it, would you? Do you know what I mean? It's true though. Like you kind of, like you say, you have to, and that was where I was lacking for so long in the modelling game.
Yeah.
Because it was all numbers. It was all just like, speaking to my agent, oh, you've booked this job tomorrow. Cool. Like, how much is it worth? Like, how much? What's the day rate?
Yeah, because that's all that's going to be driving you. It's almost like being employed in a way.
Exactly. And I couldn't work out what was like. I was like, I don't get it. Something's not right. And then it was that. It was probably like from a fulfillment point of view. Or whether it's I don't know if that's the way to sort of
like the passion, like you knew that you enjoyed it, but your passion is fitness.
Yeah, and I just thought I could have a better influence. I thought I could, do you know what I mean? Like, as in, I thought I could influence people in a better way than just through modelling and having my photo taken.
Yeah.
And, I absolutely love that industry for so many reasons, but I feel like, whether I have a good balance now or not is another question.
No one ever has the right balance,
exactly,
do they?
Yeah, no one ever does right.
Not if you work for yourself.
Completely, exactly. And juggling the two is a big sort of like, has been an incredibly big learning curve for me. Like, and like I say, as of a year ago when we went into a full-time sort of business. And I think a lot of people found this when they started things over, like lockdown and that sort of thing, was that, during lockdown we had weekends and evenings, and it was,
you could contact everyone all day, every day if you wanted to.
Exactly. And starting these things, you had all the free time. All of a sudden life opened a little bit. For me, it was such a big learning curve. Like, modelling picked up. Yeah. So I'm working more, and now, like, you want to, and take into account that you didn't see anyone for a year. Yeah. So you kind of got all these catch-ups, all this social side of life. Your weekends are now busy, and the business is getting busier too. And it's like, oh, hold on.
You need to maintain it.
How is this going to work? Exactly. Yeah. And that was such a big learning curve.
You got to be careful not to burn out as well. Precisely. I'm typical of having 1,000 ideas and wanting to do all of them, but then you end up drained. And if you work every day, you're going to end up you need a break every now and then. 100%.
And that is, again, probably one of the biggest challenges and learning curves that I have found since starting a business and everything that comes into it, because you kind of think that, and you'll know this, I mean, this bit of tax is a big sort of part of it as well, is that you think that when you're starting a business, you kind of like sit there and go, oh yeah, but if I take on X amount of clients and we're working with clients, all I'll be doing all day is just sitting talking about health. Like, it's gonna be so fun. But then you don't realize what actually, like, from a content, and then from a set, your sales, your client retention, your client drive, your marketing, your accounts and your tax, your content output, your And all of a sudden, and now I've got an employee, so it's now you're a leader and a boss, and and it's like all of a sudden it's like whoa, this is what I signed up for.
Need to know about setting up a pension.
Yeah,
and everything.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's like, this isn't what I signed up for.
And no one teaches you. I'm quite surprised when we were at university that we didn't have lessons or even a topic for at least one bit of a year on tax and how to run your own business.
Honestly, it is one of the, and I think, and this is where our industries are probably quite similar, is that I think in the future we will, I'm 100% sure, and it's the same with nutrition. I can't believe we're not taught at a young age healthy eating habits.
Why
what
aren't
you
we?
eat is literally what you become. It's not so, you know what I mean? It's not even a secret. The way you eat is what you become. So it's essentially food can be medicine in ways. And it's that how we're not taught that at a young age. And again, how we're not taught. So I went into modelling from a self-employed point of view. I had no idea how to do my accounts. I had no idea about, you should probably start a pension. And that's one of my biggest regrets. I didn't start a pension until I must have been about 25.
Yeah, because usually it goes through your employer.
Because it's all through your employers. And when you're in self-employed, you think, I'm not giving any money to anyone else. And things like that. I had no idea. And I studied business. So you think, imagine,
I know, I studied accounting and tax, and I learned how to do corporation tax returns loosely. But why were we not taught anything?
Came to do my self-employed taxes obviously every year. I actually outsourced that, and I have an accountant.
Yeah.
That has always done my accounts because I've just wanted to always keep it above. But for that reason, because I'm so out of my depth, and I saw it when I was like, I have no idea what I can
claim and
what's an expense, what's not, what does. Do you know what I mean?
Terminology in the language, I understand it, but when I first started my job, I thought everyone in the office was speaking in this completely different language. I didn't actually understand the questions they were asking each other because I'd not been around it and immersed in it. I'd never seen an invoice before, because when you ordered online, we didn't really use that much Amazon or anything. I'd never seen an actual business invoice.
Exactly.
It was a very steep learning curve for me, and I'm in the industry, so I can't imagine what people, especially younger people starting their businesses, they're not going to have a clue that you need to sign up for self-assessment.
Yep.
You need to be aware of your payment dates and your deadlines. National insurance, because if you don't voluntarily pay one of the classes, I can't remember off the top of my head, it might be class 4 if you're self-employed, you can lose your state pension if you miss a year.
Yeah.
And it can be something as small as £100 or £200 a year. If you haven't made enough profit through your self-employed income, you can miss out on your state pension when you're in your 60s. It's such a fundamental thing that everyone needs to know.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do a separate episode on national insurance, but it's quite a dry topic, so I need to figure out how to make it more engaging.
Yeah.
But things like that and little tips and tricks, I call them tips and tricks, it's fundamental, but no one tells you.
Say, you have to know it.
Yeah, and you have to know that you need to check that box. If you do your own tax return, because I do my own, so I now see it from a client side because we have separate software, which is different.
Yeah.
It does mention sort of that you should pay it. It does flag it up when I was self-employed as well for a little bit. But if you don't know what it's asking you, you wouldn't know that it needs to do that. It's asking you to pay something voluntarily. Everyone would say no. They are getting a bit better with putting descriptions on the forms, but you have to tailor your own form. Do you have this and that? Some people might not know how important that is.
Yeah, I think what was another big learning curve? I think it was student loans, another big one for me.
Oh God,
so I had no idea, and all of a sudden you just
takes all of your salary.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Because when you're self-employed, it doesn't come out.
Because it comes out once a year. So. And even just little things I remember when I first went into sort of self-employment, and to be honest, I've always been pretty sensible with money. So I've never really been sort of...
You need to put a little bit aside for tax.
Yeah, and I've always had very sensible heads around me. My parents, my old man's very just be careful, make sure you do this. But again, it was, I was 23, just moved to London. You're living on the breadline when you first moved to London anyway. Yeah. And it's all of a sudden you're kind of there and you've got this income coming in, but then you kind of don't... So hold on. Some of that's not actually my money, so I've got to pay tax in a year's time.
Oh, everyone just spends it.
Then I've got to pay first amount on, your first payment on next year.
Yeah.
And it's hold on a minute, what's going
and you end up with less money in the end, especially your first year.
If I hadn't have had those heads around me and people sort of advising me well to get an accountant, to do everything legit and to
do it early,
save the money, always put 30% of what you're earning aside, just be over the top. I can easily see how people get themselves into trouble.
Especially with student loan, 30%. You end up needing to put like almost half
And that's
away.
a lump payment once a year, right? Because obviously before when I was in self-employment, it comes out your salary, you don't notice. So the money that comes into your bank account is your money.
Yeah, it's your net pay.
It was all of a sudden the money that comes into your bank account from your agency, it isn't your money.
No.
Because you've then got to pay tax on that, and you've got to pay student loan on that, you've got to pay national insurance.
Especially if you've got to pay VAT as well. Exactly. A lot of people miss out on, so if you earn over £85,000 per year of taxable turnover, then you have to sign up for VAT. So you receive that 20% of VAT that you then have to pay over to HMRC, and then you then get taxed on that amount as well. So trying to explain that to people that are used to being employed, that the money they get in isn't actually all theirs, is quite hard for people to switch, because they don't understand they're getting the gross amount, and that means the total amount. Whereas they're used to getting all the deductions, everything's handled for you, your student loans paid, your pensions paid, your VAT, well, there's no VAT on salaries, but let's just say for argument's sake, the VAT is taken out. That a lot of people do end up with a massive tax bill, and that can really impact like the way their business runs. It can affect their cash flow. Cash flow is what kills almost every business that fails, is because of lack of cash flow.
Yeah.
So there does need to be more education. I'm trying to get into universities at the moment to have a talk, do maybe like regular talks with some of the local universities or colleges. If anyone's listening, hit me up.
I think it would be invaluable.
Because we need to, especially on the business courses, the art side, the art colleges definitely need it. If you're an actor or if you're in fitness or you're modelling, like people need to know, do you sign up originally as self-employed or do you start a business straight away? What's the big things you need to know?
Yeah, exactly. There's different ways to do it. And I'm going through the transition at the moment of I've always been a sole trader.
Yeah. So you had one tax return deadline, one payment deadline.
Exactly.
You do your payments on account now, so that's where you have to prepay half of your tax
for the next year.
For the next year, one in January with the one that you've for the previous tax year, and then the other half is in July.
Yeah.
But then with corporation tax, when you set up a company, you've got so many different deadlines, completely different payment dates, a whole load of other taxes you need to think about, because if you take money out of the company, you will owe the company money, or you'll have to pay tax in a different way.
Exactly. And that's exactly what I'm going through actually at the moment, because obviously this year end, so April 22, is going to be our first.
Oh, so you're an April year end.
Yes. So that's going to be the first year or year end of Eat, Look, Feel public limited company accounts. Rather than just sole trader. Yeah. And it's getting that shift out. So then eventually I will work under just a public limited company. Yeah.
And then you'll know what your deadlines are. But it's funny with personal tax, you have it ends in the 5th of April, and then you've got until the following January. And everyone pay it and submit your return. But everyone does it at Christmas. Yeah. Almost every client I know does it at Christmas. And then you end up in January just like chasing, trying to get this money to go and do it. But with corporation tax, you have to submit accounts. You have to make sure you submit confirmation statement. Yeah. They've both got different dates. And you need to make sure you've got your reminders on for that. You have to do, if you've got your payroll, you've got to do that on a monthly basis. You've got your VAT on a quarterly basis. And then you've also got your tax. But your tax return is submitted in a year later. But your payment needs to be done 9 months and 1 day. Right. It's so confusing for someone who doesn't know. Like, luckily, you've got advisors behind you.
I mean, without them, it would be impossible.
And when you get into the routine of it, you'll know what your payment deadline is every year, and you can put that in your calendar. You'll know when your confirmation statements are due, so you can also, because every now and then, you expect reminders from your advisors, but they might be on holiday one year, and ultimately you're the director and the owner of the business. You have to be aware of your business requirements and what's expected of you. We have it a lot as well. I have to explain to directors they need to read up what their actual responsibilities are as a custodian of a business. Right. So there are a lot of things that come down to, and I'll show you where to find it on the website, of what actually being a director means and what are your responsibilities. Yeah. Because if it comes to, say something happens with an advisor, there's so many times they're quite interesting to read every now and then. Some cases that go to the tax courts where advisors have missed something, or they haven't specifically told a business about something.
And then who's accountable for that?
Who's accountable and whose fault is it? Mm-hmm. And Some of the time, yes, you do rely on your advisors, but we don't know everything about your individual business.
Yeah.
We could remind you of things, could forget to do them, other way around. Sometimes we have it where advisors have, been coming close to retirement, or, maybe they haven't had the right skill set. So it then goes down to who's responsible, one, for paying the tax, for the penalties, and then what happens to the business reputation as well with HMRC. And usually it all goes back to what's the director's responsibility. And a lot of people aren't actually aware of how much falls onto them because it's your business.
I can imagine, yeah.
Probably freaking you out now.
Yeah,
You're like, I need to read this.
This is just what I need.
Give you some homework for after the pod.
But it's the same thing. I think it's similar to when I was self-employed. Because obviously with the modelling industry, it's quite a sort of like, there's a lot of grey areas in terms of what you can sort of, what counts as an expense, let's say.
Yeah.
So, and it's like, obviously I put all my trust in my accountant and I've worked with...
It's better to tell them everything, they'll tell you what you can and
can't.
And
I'm just like, at the end of the day, I'm putting all my trust into an accountant and she does what she does, and she's, luckily, I've never had any problems, but there's always that, especially when you first start working with an accountant, you think, well, you know what, if the tax man does sort of come dig in and does, do a full audit of my accounts, and then I'm responsible for that, any fine lies with me. Yeah. It doesn't lie with my accountant. Do you know what I mean? Like if I've underpaid on tax or whatever it is that we've done that's too cheeky, or whatever the sort of, I don't know if we've pushed the boundaries too far.
Yeah, there's a bit of a grey area. Sometimes you haven't always as well. HMRC do have a knack for trying... They don't always, but sometimes they do try and challenge certain things and it's quite hard to know what cost can you put in. It's completely dependent on what that cost was for at that time. Exactly. Obviously, if you're putting through your own home renovation, you can't shove that through. Of
course, yeah.
A lot of people try to put through their fitness, but because you're in modelling, that's kind of in a grey area. Exactly. I couldn't put through a monthly gym membership. Completely.
And then it's like for us, another grey area is like clothes that you buy. So is it uniform? Is it not? Well, you need clothes, but then also I guess it is your uniform because you're going to work in it and you're going to client castings in it and that sort of thing. So there's lots of different beauty products. Yeah. Same thing. Is it an expense towards your, can you not? There's lots of grey areas especially in the modelling sort of,
I think that is a harder industry. So we know with uniform, if you're a builder and you need steel toe cap boots, you can put that through. You can put through a laundry cost because obviously you've got to wash all those clothes. We have it with a few stuntmen that need physio.
Yes, exactly.
And sometimes that gets challenged, but it makes sense. It's directly related to your job.
Part of their, exactly. It affects their performance, right?
With most of these things, there's either been a case or there's, as long as you can put enough of a commercial reason behind it and show there's not too much of a personal use and using it completely within your business, then you've got a good argument. But some things have been tried and tested over years and years, and we just, if there's a court case, we're like, you can't do this.
Yeah.
I know you want to, but you can't. That's what I find super interesting when it's little facts like that, like, oh, did you know that you can't claim this because someone tried to do it? Yeah. But
again, it's going back to all the things you're just not taught in sort of state education and higher education. You're just not taught anything to do with that sort of thing.
No, and you don't know where to find it.
That's it, exactly. There's not really any, I mean, to be fair, it might be different nowadays, but when I was sort of first starting, there's not really, and the HMRC website and stuff like that kind of helps, but it's hard to get your head around. But
there's a lot of different avenues of options with HMRC, because you've got the gov.uk. When you go on there, that's sometimes that's too basic. So yes, that's supposed to give you just you're supposed to be just dipping your toe in, and then you can go into the notices and some bigger information sheets that they've got, and that gives you more information. But that's it's supposed to be written for taxpayers like you, but really we understand it as advisors because we know the terminology they're using. And then you've got the manuals, which they're used for HMRC officers with an inquiry. So that's HMRC's stance on certain things in more detail. But you wouldn't expect a taxpayer to go and read that. But as you develop and grow your business more and more, you'll find yourself diving into more and more of the HMRC resources as you get used to knowing what's the terms, what does this mean, what's going to happen. But Google's a great resource. There's lots of articles and tax articles that are written, and the more you delve into a subject, when you've got your own business, you care a lot more.
That's it.
So you'll start Googling and you'll end up reading tax articles late at night because you want to know whether you can claim this or not. You'll Google it and there'll be someone that's written about it and you'll be like, actually, I understood that. Okay, I know I need to do that. And then you'll flag it with your accountant.
Yeah, no, completely. And like that, I guess that's still a big learning curve that's to come, because obviously, like I said,
you've got a lot to think about already.
We'll be filing our first accounts in April 22. So in a month's time odd. But yeah, it's going to be that transition between sole trader to a public limited company.
Yeah.
And yeah, all the
you'll be Googling a lot of terms.
But that's just like anything, right? Like the best way to learn is just
ask the questions.
In. And that's where I probably going back to what we said earlier about like I procrastinated for too long on so much stuff, because you just kind of think, I'll get to know it one day. I'll get to know it. Look for
you put it on the list and you're like, oh no, it'd be good to know about that.
There's
and then
only
it just
one
goes
way to
further
really
down.
learn, right? You can read all the books you want, but I'll learn, like you say, you learn
on the job.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And you also need to be aware of HR. There's GDPR now is a massive thing.
Well, and obviously with client data.
So be careful.
It's a massive, like client sort of personal data is a massive topic, and rightly so. Like I have to be careful about what I share on social media and that sort of thing. Like, obviously it's nice to share client journeys and stuff, but
you have to make sure you scrub out the photo or anything, or get permission.
Exactly. And most people are proud of it, but
it's just going to be that one time.
I don't like sharing I don't really like sharing names of clients, for instance, just because you can usually then do a bit of digging, and you know what it's like these days.
People can find
anything. You can look
anything
at who
so
I
quickly.
follow on or whatever, and all of a sudden you know who that is, who we're working with. And for me, it's everyone should have their privacy, and rightly so, but at the same time, you obviously want to celebrate client wins, and it gives them a sort of form of pride, if you like, in me sharing their journey.
Yeah, especially like the before and afters. Exactly. Everyone loves like a before and after
type things. Yeah. And like you say, most people are proud of them, so sharing them is not an issue. But I also don't like sharing like the name of that client.
Yeah, because especially say they're quite high up in a company, they don't want their employees seeing them. Well, 100%. Not half naked, but you are obviously a lot. Like in less clothing than you would be when you're at work.
Everyone should have that privacy. And a lot of people, I work with a lot of clients that say, can we keep this between us? And I obviously, I would never, ever tell anyone. Like, I even think I'm working with groups of friends
that don't
know that their best mate is working with me, sort of thing.
A lot of people want to wait until the after as well. They want to wait for the transformation before 100%. They say anything.
And I think there's almost a maybe, again, going back to, there's almost probably a negative connotation to it, like kind of, you need help. Yeah. Like, you should be able to do this on your own, sort of thing. And it's, I don't know, maybe that's just something that I've noticed, that people don't want to scream about, I've got help with my health. Yeah. I'm just getting myself into good shape on my own. And it's, I don't know, maybe it's cooler to come across as...
Maybe, yeah.
Don't know.
Is there any advice you'd give to your younger self?
So from a business point of view, I would say just start. Mm-hmm. Just get going and figure things out as you go. I probably procrastinated for too long, I think, because I probably am a bit of a perfectionist, and I was trying to sort of create this incredible product, and I wanted everything to be absolutely perfect before I kind of just got going with it. And things have developed so much more quickly as I have actually just had skin in the game and actually started to understand the industry and really working with people. And I guess like one thing that I wish I don't know, it's difficult because obviously if I'd started younger, would it have gone like this? And am I a different person?
You might not have had the mentality.
Precisely. Yeah. So, it's difficult to say, but one thing I definitely know that I do is I definitely probably procrastinate too much, because I try and get everything perfect before. And I even see it now with my day-to-day work. Mm-hmm. Like even now with sort of things that we've sort of got in the pipeline with Eat Look Feel stuff, it's like I want everything to be amazingly perfect and that incredible product before it goes out there. Yeah. Whereas actually there is an element, I think, of just get going. Yeah. And you can tweak it along the way, and it's probably still going to come across in the same way, and letting go of that little bit of control. Yeah, exactly. But there also is that just start, like, because obviously with the perfection side of things, which is a good trait, but it's also with that comes, it's very easy to put it off another week. Do you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden it's been 6 months and you're like, hold on, nothing's really changed.
Yeah.
And so that's probably one sort of business advice I would say to give to myself and to, I guess, anyone listening. From a personal point of view, I think I would say probably to be more present and to be, I think I struggle with always wanting that next thing a lot.
I think that's like our age as well.
Yeah.
Everything's so instant.
Completely.
You can get information in a second. You can go out and eat or get food delivered in a second. We don't like to wait for anything. We're used to, everyone wants to be an overnight CEO in their early 20s. Like, we're just not used to the waiting for a long time and working towards a goal and then achieving it. We're used to being able to get it very quickly.
I think you're spot on. Yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on. I think it's definitely something that I have struggled with is just I want everything like and almost not celebrating the little wins, if you like. So like, you know, I can't think of a good example off the top of my head, but it's that constant pushing, which I think is a good trait to have in so many ways. But at the same time, you do have to give yourself, like, you know, celebrate those small wins and give yourself credit sometimes when it's due.
Yeah.
Put it this way, that's one thing that I say to my clients a lot, is that let's celebrate.
Practice what you preach.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And it's like, you know, if theirs is a weight loss goal, and they want to lose 5 kilograms, it's like, no, let's take that back. Let's celebrate 1 kilogram, because then we know that
you're moving along the journey.
Are in place, the alignment's there. Exactly. So, but obviously it's one of them things, and it's easy to give advice, and sometimes you need to listen to your own. And I think that's one thing that and then linking that to sort of starting a business as well, is one thing I've learned massively, is that I think you have an element of like accountability and pride when you start something. It's your baby, right? Like it's you. You're the driver of that, and it's very much like I probably again linking to like burnout's a silly word, but it's linking to like overworking and that whole, there would be times, I remember like last year, there'd be times where I'd sort of go home and see my family, and I'll be sitting there sort of like watching telly with my family, or just you know, just doing something redundant with your family. And I don't, you know, I get to see them maybe not, I don't live there or anything like that, so I don't get to see them as often as I'd like. And I'd be sitting there doing emails or something like that. And it's like, no, drop out of that, be present and really take those like moments in, because there's probably nothing that can't get solved in 12 hours time or in 2 hours time. But it's that instant, you know, like if a client would message me,
you want to be available.
I'd be there. Exactly. I'd be like, right, I need to deal with this. And it's like, no, you don't, because you're actually probably not delivering such a good service either. And that's like just been a big learning curve, and probably advice I'd say to myself is just be present in the more moments, and then have your time where you work and your time where you don't. Yeah. Because I very much like, there when you blur really the lines, fuzzy line, exactly. And I used to have things like, if I'd get a client that would like, you know, check in or message me, or something would sort of happen, or my employee would message me at 9 o'clock at night, because it's kind of, you know, just with an idea or something. I couldn't go to sleep unless that's done. Do you know what I mean? And it would be like, I'm shattered. I know I'm not delivering the best service, but I need to get that to-do list ticked off so I can start tomorrow on a fresh. And it's just getting that mindset right. And now I'm so much better at it. And now I'm a bit like, right, you know what? No, I need to have my downtime, because that actually improves the uptime. Yeah,
your productivity is a lot higher. You can't get everything solved in a day. And I'm typical of giving myself 100 things to do, and I don't achieve all of them. And then you start beating yourself up about it, and then you can't sleep. But if you actually just take a step back and go to sleep early, and then you can tick off those final 5 things early in the morning and make your day better. But I'm listening to all the advice you're giving to your younger self, and I'm like, yeah, I know, that's exactly what I say to myself and say to everyone else, but it's so hard to practice what you preach.
Oh, of course, and it's, you know, it comes from a good place as well, because you just want that, and like you say, when you have your own thing, it's a level of accountability and pride and responsibility that you've never sort of dealt with before. Yeah. Like, you know, you can't, weekends don't look the same.
No, never.
Evenings don't look the same. Yeah, exactly. It's not.
Never.
And that's part of it. And you know, I'm actually very lucky that I have a lot some like very, very close friends of mine who have launched amazing businesses and been very, very
So
successful.
at least you're surrounding yourself with people in the
100%.
same situation, so you can talk about these things and you can rely on each other.
Completely, and you learn so much from them. And you learn so much from just seeing their journeys. And like I'll speak to one of my closest mates about like the burnout side of things a lot, and it's like it's a real thing when you start your own business.
You need those open discussions as well, because otherwise you'd feel like you're completely alone in it, and everyone else isn't feeling this, and their businesses are super successful and taking off, and then you're the only one that's struggling, and it's not the case.
Yeah, exactly, and it's like you say, it's almost like that comparison culture that we have. But from like a whole like business grown up point of view. Exactly.
I think we all unintentionally, not competitive, but we do compare.
Yeah, of course.
And there is that slight competitive nature as well. And with social media, you just don't see the other side. That's why I always like in these episodes to talk to people about like what difficulties have they had, like what advice would you give to your younger self, so people understand, yes, you're super successful, your business growing, but everyone experiences difficulties along the way. It's not this easy picture that social media puts out there. Like you have to put the work in and you have to learn as you go.
Yeah, completely. And like you say, like and almost rightly so, because obviously you're not going to show the bad side of business on social media, but it exists.
It'd be a marketing nightmare if you decided to show you like in tears at your desk because you've lost all the work you've done for a few hours because your laptop's just broken.
It's not going to sell, is it? And it's not going to, it's not going to help the business, but it exists. And there's a lot of, there are obviously difficulties that come with it. And I think it's like you say, it's very healthy to talk about those as well, because there is an element of you can't teach it.
No,
you can't.
You have to just, it's character building.
You can read as many business books, and you can do all of the online courses and go and do a degree in business all you want, like until it's, skin in the game. You're there, the app's not working.
Oh, the technology side.
It's a Monday morning, the app's not working, you've got calls coming all over the place and what's going on. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
and it's that stress that you then put on yourself.
Exactly.
Either you've got the fight or flight, either you can go and deal with those things, or you can just turn it off and you need to go and walk outside for 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And then you can process it and deal with it. But technology side, we rely so much on technology.
And again, it's the same thing, isn't it? It's like the first time you encounter, like the second time you encounter a problem, it was always easier.
Yeah, you're like, okay, I know who I need to ring now and do it.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay, right, I don't need to stress about this because there's probably not a problem that I can't solve. Yeah. Like it will get solved. Yeah. I will solve this.
Just deep breathe and you can get through it.
Actually, by me stressing, I'm essentially enhancing the problem. Yeah. And making it worse for absolutely everybody. Yeah. So actually take a step back, take your time. There is nothing that can happen that I can't probably solve. Yeah. We can't probably solve. So it's just, and they're all just like say, they're all just learning curves and setbacks of starting businesses and doing that sort of thing, and then probably even from like being an employee point of view as well. Right? Like, there's stresses that come from that as well.
Yeah, you've just always got to take your time. It's easier said than done when you're in the moment. I have to constantly remind myself, I have to change up my environment, go and stand outside, take a deep breath and go and sit back down, take yourself out of the situation.
Yeah, exactly, precisely. So powerful.
So thank you for coming in today, Dan. It's been great to have a chat. Yeah. And make sure anyone that's listening, make sure you head on over to Eat Look Feel's website. I'll put the social media details in the YouTube video, and I will see you all soon.